Rappin' with ReefBum is sponsored by Bulk Reef Supply and Ecotech Marine.
Hey, what? Excuse me. Got something caught in my throat. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Rappin' with ReefBum. I'm your host, Keith Berkelhamer. So, on today's live stream, I have the pleasure of welcoming back Greg Carroll. What's happening there, Greg?
Hey, Keith. How you doing, bud?
Pretty good there, buddy. Thanks for being flexible and joining me on a Tuesday. We're
no problem.
Kind of had to do a little schedule change tonight, and also next week. I'm going to be on a Tuesday night, but that's neither here nor there. Let's get into the stream tonight. Just as a quick background for those that don't know Greg, he's a very accomplished reef keeper who has won Tank of the Month honors on Reef Central, is president of Southern California Marine Aquarium Society, is one of the founders of Reefapalooza, and we'll be talking about the upcoming show in New York in June. It's not June yet, but it's coming up in a few weeks.
It is.
And he's also been a speaker at some major reef keeping conferences, and Greg has a big following on Instagram. If you're not following him, please do so. He's got over 7,400 followers. He's you can find him as G Carroll. That's 2 R's and 2 L's. 1969 on Instagram.
Get me 15 viewers, and I'll be at 7,500.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So before we start chatting with Greg, I want to thank the sponsors of the show, both Bulk Reef Supply and Ecotech Marine. I really appreciate these companies supporting the live stream. And I appreciate the support from all you folks out there tuning in. Please spread the word about the show. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. That would be awesome. And I really appreciate you folks following the stream tonight, Tuesday night. It's been Thursday night for 3 years now. I've been doing this for over 3 years. So sorry about that curveball, but I screwed up. So
Yes. No biggie.
it happens, right? It happens.
Yeah. I mean, everybody still gets the notifications, so they may not be expecting it, but they get them.
Yep.
So
I always do like a weekly email blast too every morning of the show. So
cool.
yeah, I think that reaches. So yeah, folks, if you want to be on that email, then just reach out to me via the contact form on my website, reefbum.com, and you can be in the know in terms of schedule changes. But there's also a schedule for Rappin' with ReefBum on my website, reefbum.com. All right, so
nice.
Let's let me stop all the self-promoting here and have a chat with my reef keeping buddy there, Greg. So, dude, what's going on with the tank? I'm going to show this video of the tank that you had passed along to me. Thank you very much for that video. But, dude, it's looking pretty friggin' awesome. Talk to us.
So I got a slight delay, so I haven't seen it yet.
Yep.
But I've made a few changes on the tank. Trying to get more out of it. So I changed from 6 Gen 4 radions, and with those Gen 4 radions, we're doing just fine. I mean, there was nothing wrong with them, but I moved up to the Gen 5s. Now I only have 5 up because one of them was bad out of the box, and it's already back, but I don't really have a need to change it.
Do you have a par meter and
yes?
Okay. What did you find in terms of the difference between the 6 Gen 4s and the 5 Gen 5s?
So it's very close to the same. Actually, I think that the Gen 5s are a little bit stronger at where they're set. At the main level of the tank, where most of the corals are, they're getting about 500 micromoles, which is fine. At the bottom of the tank, it's upwards today as of about maybe 275.
Oh, that's pretty good, man. The bottom.
Yeah. So I can color up SPS. Doesn't matter where they are in the tank. It's a powerhouse, and the lights are only set at 50%. It literally At that depth, at 100%, it puts out 1,000 micromoles. It's literally 10 times whatever the setting is. So it works out perfect. When it's at 50%, it's at 500.
Wow,
so
that's pretty sweet. So refresh our memories in terms of how long of a tank that is.
How what?
How long of a tank? How long is a tank?
Okay, so the tank is 62 inches long, 36 inches front to back.
Nice.
And 27 inches tall. So I know a lot of people, because when they see it in pictures, they think it's smaller than it is. But it's a good amount of water, and the corals are pretty far down in the water as well.
Would you make any changes now with the dimensions of that tank, or are you happy with what you have?
I'm happy with it. If anything, I would have gone shallower.
Yes. Yeah.
I would have gone shallower. But at the time, it was made for my previous home, and you know, I just wasn't. How can I say? I was restricted on the length, so
Right.
I was trying to get as many gallons out of it as possible. And originally, the sump and everything was going to be in the garage because it was on an exterior wall. It would have been awesome, but we ended up moving, so everything's underneath. So
you moved the tank, or you bought the tank, then you moved, and then you
bought the tank,
moved, then
we moved.
Ah.
Yeah. So yeah, at least I didn't have to tear down a tank. You know, that's not fun. That was the good part.
Yeah, that's not fun.
But yeah, so now where it is, there was no way to do a remote sump. So Vertex built me a custom sump, and it came out beautiful.
Yeah, we've seen it before. Yeah.
Yeah, the hybrid PVC sumps. I did change out my protein skimmer. I went from the Vertex Alpha to the Ultra Reef Typhoon 250.
Oh, that's like the thing that is built like a...
Yeah.
I mean,
like nothing else.
Right. That thing, I lifted one of those things up at a Reefapalooza. I couldn't believe how heavy that thing was. I mean, that is solid.
I didn't think I'd ever see anything that was built sturdier than a Bubble King or a Vertex. But they just went completely overboard because they basically built it out of 1-inch thick blocks and milled everything down. So yeah, it's definitely a fun little skimmer to have. And I have been very, very pleased with the Seche pump that's on it.
Oh.
So it's basically an SDC 9000 that's converted into a skimmer pump. It's been very reliable, never overflows. It just does its thing.
Well, that's the whole thing about a skimmer, right? You just want to basically turn it on, and you don't really want to have to tinker with the thing, right? I mean, you just want it to be a turnkey type of skimmer, and that's not something that you should really be worrying about in terms of equipment with a reef tank. That should be something that's a set it and forget it type of thing.
For sure. I feel the same way. The other thing, I do like to have as big of a skimmer as I can possibly have, simply because I feel that the skimmer is great for oxygen exchange. And I thought I had a big skimmer with the Alpha 250, but the pH jumped up 0.2 just from changing the skimmer.
Really?
Yes.
Well, so
because of so much more air from the pump.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never heard that before in terms of a skimmer can actually increase the pH. That's So what is your pH range right now? Low to high?
Low is about 8.1. High can get as high as 8.4.
Yeah, that's a sweet range, you know.
And I'm running a calcium reactor.
Still the Reef Octopus.
Still the Reef Octopus. Now I've done a few things to help with the pH. So my calcium reactor only runs during the daytime when the lights are on.
Right.
So when my calcium reactor is on, the pH in the calcium reactor is down at 6.15. So it's a very potent effluent that's coming out of it, with running it that low. But at night it cuts off.
Right.
And so the pH doesn't really drop that much. So that's kind of helping combat that. I'm not running Kalkwasser or anything like that yet. But I have plans to run Kalkwasser. I already got a reactor for it. I just haven't implemented it yet.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I'm like leaning heavily on Kalkwasser. I'm running the on both of my systems. I have Reef Octopus. I've got the same one that you have on my 446 gallon system, and then I have the dual chamber 8-inch chambers. I think the Reef Octopus on the Peninsula tank system. And yeah, I mean, I don't think my reactors are going on that often because I'm dosing probably, what is it, about 28 gallons of Kalkwasser every 2 weeks for each system.
Right.
So it's a lot, and my pH is in the 8.2 to 8.5 range. And I'm also dripping the effluent from both of those calcium reactors into the skimmer pump. And people might say, "What are you, crazy?" But it's not a problem.
Absolutely.
It's not a problem in terms of season up.
Yeah. So the way my sump was designed, Vertex actually designed the effluent where it drips is right next to the skimmer pump. So
right, and what we're talking about, folks, for those that don't know, is that there's that's a very high point of aeration, a high air exchange with that skimmer pump. So when you do drip that effluent in there, you're getting the CO2 is getting absorbed in that gas exchange. So it's getting degassed, I guess you could say.
And people who you may hear me say that my effluent is 6.15, and that's extremely low. But in addition to that, it's a full stream.
Right.
There's no meter. There's no way. Nothing stopping the flow. It's a full stream that comes out of it.
Right. I remember you're not using any kind of pump or whatnot. You're just.
I have a small pump that feeds it, but it's not a metered pump. It's just a regular little pump.
Right. Yeah, I think my my effluent it ranges from 6.2 on one system, and maybe I'll go. So I play around with that. That's how I adjust my calcium reactor in terms of trying to dial in that alkalinity, is raising and lowering that pH of the effluent. Sometimes I have to go all the way down to 6.1. Sometimes I'm going up to 6.8. But
yeah,
I think it's it's a lot easier, I think, to tune a calcium reactor that way versus playing around with the bubble count on the CO2 and playing around with the drip count on the effluent. So it's the great thing is you could do that remotely, right?
Yes, and so with my Hydros controller, the calcium reactor is also it's got the solenoid that switches on and off with the pH, but at the same point, if the alkalinity tests over 10. It shuts down the calcium reactor until it gets back down below 9.9.
Rob, upstate New York, thank you very much for that super chat. My late fee and working on convincing the wife ReefBum is only on once this week. Yeah, I'm not going to be back on Thursday. Thanks, Rob. All right, we got a couple of random questions here.
Sure.
Greg, let's see. John Wright, I'm confused. I recently watched a video where it said skimmers don't introduce oxygen to your tank.
But they do blow off CO2.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing. And when we're talking about a calcium reactor, that's a lot of CO2 in that water. It's a lot of carbonic acid.
Right, and aeration, it just in general, is a really good thing to have for a reef tank.
Absolutely.
If you're not running a skimmer, then you want to make sure you're getting some good, at least, water air exchange in terms of surface agitation. That's another way to achieve that. M Casual Reefer, how accurate would a Cine be as a par meter? Does anyone find it reads higher than an apogee? Any thoughts on that, man?
Well, BRS did a test a long time ago, and the Senai read closer to their Lycor meter than the Apogee did. So
Okay.
the Lycor is pretty much the platinum standard of par meters. Although the Senai has a problem in that it has to be angled properly to fully capture. It doesn't have a domed sensor that captures light from multiple angles. So that's a crutch that it has.
Yeah, when I started my Peninsula tank, I rented one of those par meters from BRS, and I think it was an Apogee, right? I think those are the par meters that they were renting out, and I took some readings back then just to make sure I knew what the par readings were for my new GHL Mitras lights. And I also took par reading from my metal halide lit tanks to just to see what I had cranking out of those fixtures, and the readings that I got back then were surprisingly low. Like I got ranges like from 150 to maybe up to 300, 350 or whatnot. And then Moki Chow, Inappropriate Reefer, lent me his par meter recently because I just got some new Mitras that I've replaced my metal halides on one of my display tanks, and so I took the readings again with the metal halides, and they were much higher than they were the last time I took readings. So it must have been user error or something that was going on with that.
Possibly. I mean, the par meter, it's, in my opinion, it's not an exact science. It'll get you an idea, and being able to rent them from BRS, man, that's an awesome deal. The par meter that I currently have, I rented. And when it showed up, it was brand new in the box, so it never got returned.
Ah. Good idea.
It got sold to me as an open box, because you're renting it.
Oh.
But it was brand spanking. It was when they first started the program, and I called up Ryan. I said, "You're not getting this par meter back."
I gotta invest in a par meter because now that I'm running LEDs, I've been running the Mitras for a couple years, 2.5 years, I guess, and over time, right, there will be some loss in terms of what those things crank out. Is that one reason why you have a par meter? Is just to kind of like monitor that stuff to see what kind of degradation is going on?
I have seen no degradation. I didn't see any in the Gen 4s, and the G5s are kind of too new. So I've never seen any degradation. I mean, for the most part, we don't run them high enough to where we're going to see much of a degradation. As long as those LEDs can run at normal temperature, which virtually all of them have protection circuitry to make sure that they do, they're going to last a good. I mean, we might see a small, maybe 20% degradation at best if you're really running them hard.
Yeah.
But for most of us who aren't even running them at 100 or anywhere close to 100%, I mean, I'm at 50. I don't feel I'm going to see any noticeable degradation because they run fairly cool.
Yeah, I mean, for my Mitras, I'm running those at about I think like maybe at least 6 channels. I'm running at 100%.
Right, but it's the overall power that dictates it. How much heat can the heat sink remove? And so if you can run certain channels at 100%, but the heat sink's still able to remove that heat.
Oh, gotcha.
So yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say? 5 years, 6 years?
10.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, the way we use them, yeah, 10.
Interesting.
I mean, you're more likely going to have I think you're more likely going to have an issue from salt in the air damaging solder points and stuff like that, or your fans going out because we don't clean them. That's the more likely stuff to break than the actual LEDs degrading, I think.
Well, I'll tell you, man, I've been digging LEDs for the last couple of years, and that's why I made the switch to my from halides to LEDs, and I think I'm going to be happy just from a heat perspective because, you know,
Yeah.
I think every now and then my chiller was popping on that system because of the halides in that display
Not anymore.
tank. So I don't think so, man. I think I don't think I have to worry about that. But I don't know. It's just I'm running this Spectrum that mimics 400 watt 20K, you know, halides and I don't know what it is, man.
So you're on the bandwagon that LEDs can grow coral.
Shit, yeah.
That's what I like to hear. You know,
dude. I mean,
that's kind of why I went to LED. I mean, I'm like, you know, Sanjay basically told me a photon's a photon's a photon.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it'll grow coral.
I have not seen the kind of growth and colors that I've been getting under my LEDs ever in any of my metal halide lit tanks. So I don't know, you know, maybe it's because I've got 6 fixtures over a 6 foot long by 36 inch wide, 20 inch
That
tall
absolutely helps.
tank, you know, so I've got that coverage.
And I think, you know, I know people talk about LEDs being extremely expensive, and they are if you buy enough of them.
Yeah,
you know,
they are.
Because spread is so important, and when you can get enough to cover every inch and get lots of overlap and so forth, it can be quite expensive. But I still remember the days of Sphiligoy metal halides and Geisman metal halides. They weren't cheap.
No,
my Geisman was like $4,800.
Yeah,
and I wanted the Sphiligoy. It was like $6,500.
I had one of those. That was like I had a 6 foot long fixture, and I think it had 3 halides in there plus the T5s. Man,
T5s.
That thing was just a freaking beast. I mean, that thing, and it grew corals like you couldn't believe.
Absolutely. So people need to understand this. The price of LEDs to those of us that have been around a long time, it's still just the price of premium lighting. It's very similar, guys.
Yeah. I don't know. It's I'm definitely a convert for sure.
Now, one thing I did change when I went to the G5s, I also added a couple of the AI blade glows.
I saw that in the video.
Yeah. And you know, Adaptive Reef came out with some nice little brackets that you know, you can angle them any way you want. I don't really need the additional spread because the corals are low in the tank. You know, the bounce that I get off of the glass and whatnot, you know, helps there. But I just want to see if those additional colors would give me a little something different.
So in the video we saw, it was a lot of full spectrum lighting, it looked like. But you like the blues too, right, man?
I do, but the blues don't come on until like 6 p.m. or so in the evening. And you know, I like to look at it under the blue lights. I'm sorry I didn't take a video of it, but there's plenty on my Instagram. I literally sit with glasses on, sitting on the sofa watching TV. And my wife's like, "Are you kidding me?"
Oh, you're wearing the yellow glasses?
Oh, yeah.
It's awesome.
I figure the TV's LED too, so it looks a little but no, I love watching the tank. You know, I don't have a lot of fish, but I got a lot of colorful coral.
Dude, I saw you had a powder blue tang swimming around in there. You had some other tangs in there as well.
That's the first powder blue I've ever got to live in my 25 years of reef keeping.
That's awesome, man. I am so bummed because I had a gorgeous powder blue in my Peninsula tank that I had to give away because he turned into an asshole. And
yeah. Well, he's got a yellow tang in there that kind of punks him. So it's the yellow tang that I have to worry about.
Really?
So yeah.
Yeah, you know, I made the mistake of getting another. I mean, you know, years and years ago, I had a powder blue, and it was fine. And then all of a sudden, it just turned evil, and you know, it just went crazy. It just went batshit crazy against all the other fish, and I couldn't put any new fish in, and I had to get that out. And then this guy, you know, it was the last tang I had added to that tank. Things were fine. Then all of a sudden, like a light switch went off, and this thing was like, "Sorry, I'm king of this tank now.
So I've had pretty good success with introducing new tangs by taping a mirror to the front glass near the center of the tank, and the bully tends to sit there and pick at himself, and it kind of gives the other tangs time, and it's been pretty successful. But I don't have hardly any fish in the tank, so
yeah. Yeah, I had 4 pyramid butterfly, yellow pyramid butterfly fish. I lost all 4 to some like unknown disease. They just slowly.
Oh, that's weird.
It is really weird because I didn't put any new fish in that tank for a long time, and they just kind of like one by one just.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so my buddy had some pyramid butterflies, and actually, the dominant one killed all the other ones one by one.
Really?
He kept picking on whatever one was the smallest. He picked on it until it was dead.
Wow, that's odd. I mean, I've never seen that behavior. This is the second time I've had pyramid butterfly fish, and they've all been, cool with one another.
Yeah.
And the first round they were very, very hardy. I mean, I never imagined I would lose them. So it's weird, man. It's like you never know what to expect of this hobby. Especially when you don't bring in anything new, right?
Yep. I have a wrasse that I need to get rid of. Ever since it's a margin fairy wrasse, and once he went super male, he killed everything smaller than him.
Ooh, ouch!
He killed every wrasse I had, chased him out of the tank, or just killed them. He killed the Antheus. So my wife's like, until you get rid of that fish, you're not buying any fish. So I'm not buying any fish.
Andy says my pyramid started eating my corals. I think I tried putting some Ghanies and some Alveopora in that peninsula tank, and they never opened up. And I was suspecting that my pyramids might have been picking at them. So and they're supposed to be reef safe.
Now that's a coral. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I can't keep Gonioporas.
Really?
I haven't tried in the big tank, but in any tank I've ever had, they never open up. They just stay closed. I don't know why. I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Dude, man, I thought you got the Midas touch there. I thought you're the SPS guru, right?
SPS. I've been good at LPS or softies. Never really tried softies, but
yeah. I picked up a few frags of some Ghanies and Alves, and I don't know what I'm not doing anything special for them, but I've always had recently some really, really good luck with them. Maybe it's just the type of captive raised corals that I brought in that I was getting luck with. I see some questions in the chat about CO2 scrubbers and what have you. So we were talking, Greg, before about pH and what have you. Have you ever use a scrubber to try to get your pH up?
I have a scrubber on the tank now. I have not changed the media in a year.
Whoa. That's the knock about scrubbers, right? Is constantly having to change out the media.
So to be honest with you, I didn't see it make much of a difference when I put it on. And it could be because I live here in Southern California, our windows are always open in the house. I don't have a high CO2 problem in the house. My house was built in the 60s, so it's not the most airtight either. But yeah, it's not. I don't think I have high CO2.
Oh, so you never gotten a meter and measured that in the house?
I've never gotten a meter to measure it, but this tank has had much higher pH numbers than any tank I've ever had.
Yeah, dude. I mean, if you're running a calcium reactor and you're not doing Kalkwasser, and I mean, in terms of you're not doing anything in terms of nutrient export, right? You're just doing the skimming.
This is
skimmer, right?
No
macro,
no carbon, no media at all.
Right. No refugium, no macro.
No refugium, no turf scrubber, none of that.
What was I going to ask you? So why are you considering a Kalkwasser?
Well, so I don't have to run the calcium reactor so hard.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
you know, I mean, that's is to running the pH. Does it turn? Say it doesn't, but you know.
You're running that stuff. I got off of it, man, because they changed the formula on me. You know,
That stuff melts at like 6.7
Yeah.
or 6.9. I mean, it melts fairly high, and I'm running it at 6.1. So, I mean, I go through it pretty quick.
why that media, not something that's got a lower melting point?
So when I filled it, the Reborn was not doing. You know, that was when they had changed sources of it. So because I used to always run Reborn, and you know, being sponsored by Brightwell, I got the Coral Lazarus, and the Coral Lazarus, what I was told is it was sourced by Carib Sea, so it's just a different size than what Carib Sea.
Yeah, I've been running Julian's Reborn for a few years, and I just finished up the smaller particle size one that has been phased out, and I got a whole bag waiting of the new stuff that I think was what he used to have, like the larger particle size. So I'm psyched.
Right.
The
yeah, he's gone back to the old size, but you have plenty of calcium reactor media that it's going to be a while till I need any.
One comment that Andy made about your issues in terms of keeping Gani's and Alveopora is that he thought maybe you have too much flow in there. I mean, yeah, I mean it could be you could be too much cranking too much par.
Yeah. One of the things about me is most people know I do everything to excess. So considering the dimensions of my tank, there is an awful lot of flow in there. I added recently the Hydro Wizard ECM 63. So that's at the back wall on the left-hand side of the tank and blows across the back wall to create a gyre going around the tank. Then I also have two MP60s at the ends of the tank and two MP40s on the back wall. So there's a lot of flow. And, you know, I regularly run the Hydro Wizard at probably 50 to 60%, but occasionally I turn it up to 100% and leave it on for a couple of days at 100%. I get that's the beauty of being bare bottom. You know, you can handle the excess flow.
That's another thing that I'm a big convert on now is bare bottom tanks. I never used to have bare bottom tanks. When I started the Peninsula tank, that's a bare bottom tank. I just recently took the sand bed out of my other display tank, so now that's bare bottom. Yep. And dude, listen, I get the sand bed thing. I used to keep sand beds.
Sand beds look great. That's all I can say good about them. I mean, there's no real, you know, especially once your tank is seasoned, you just don't need that sand anymore.
Yeah, and to get the kind of flow that you want for an SPS dominant tank. I mean, for my Peninsula tank, a 6-foot run, I needed to have like a lot of pumping power in that end panel to get the kind of flow that I needed in there, and there was no way that sand was going to hold in place. But you know, I know people say, hey, you could just use the large particle size like calcium reactor media or something like that, or calcium reactor media, whatever, small size, that'll stay in place. But I always used to have like sloppy sand beds anyway. They were just not pretty to look at, and there's some awesome looking sand beds out there, and it's a great look. And I admire people that can maintain that kind of sand bed and keep a lot of SPS. You know, that's
absolutely. And you know, and I will say I do a lot of playing with the flow. Right now, I have like the MP60s on a wave mode where they're on anti-sync, so it creates a nice rocking motion back and forth in the tank. That's been fun, you know, just seeing the fish and stuff, you know, kind of sway back and forth. In the video that we played earlier, you could even see my powder blue tank playing in the flow from the Hydro Wizard. You know, swooping down.
What mode is that?
So it's the wave mode on the MP60s.
Okay, wave mode.
Yeah, and so you figured out the resonance frequency, and then I hit for the second one. I put it on slave mode, but anti-sync, so it's the opposite.
Okay.
So it's a push and pull back and forth.
Nice.
So
I gotta. Yeah. I'm kind of like excited to play around with my my MP40s in that tank now.
I will tell you, the only thing less enjoyable in trying to set up the wave mode with the Ecotech pumps is the Hydro Wizard, because I still can't figure that one out.
Oh yeah,
that one's even harder to deal with. But Tunzi is absolutely the easiest. You know, I really missed when it came to trying to set up a wave mode. I really missed the Tunzies. You know.
So Reef Keeper pulse mode. Yeah, I've got all my MP40s in that one display tank on pulse mode. It's very vanilla, I guess you could say, in terms of that. I'm not and my Peninsula tank, I got all my my 4 MP40s and 2 MP60s on the Gyre mode. So that seems to work. But interesting. I might have to
yeah, I just was sitting on the sofa one day and just started playing with it and got it to work. And then I started with just the 1 MP60 and then used the other one as a slave.
Bill Saltwater Heaven. I have fine sand and superhighway washing machine flow, large SPS. Bill, man, that is a more power to you, dude.
You can absolutely do it, but I really enjoy just not having to worry about the sand with high flow.
And you know, I think, again, talking about SPS dominant tanks, I think you just want to try to recreate that washing machine effect, right? You just want to just see a lot of water moving around and stuff. And the more you can kind of see the polyps going back and forth, the better. And that's
absolutely,
that was like, you know, one of the reasons, you know, one of the things that I noticed in the end of my Peninsula tank was that I didn't really have the kind of movement in the polyps that I had on other parts of that tank. And so that's where I had to add more flow or change the patterns of the flow. So
and you know, I will say, I've never, with all the flow since adding that Hydro Wizard,
well, you know, just in terms of looking at the corals in your tank there, Greg, man, it's you got some happy campers in there. How often are you adding new you know, frags to that system? Are you kind of like at a point now where you're good, or are you still kind of like?
Occasionally, I will, like, you know, I have room. I try not to go to places because it's so.
Because you're gonna buy stuff.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things when I started the tank, I wanted to do it similar to the other. I bought a bunch of brown coral, you know, just to see what they do. Most of my corals are mounted on rocks. My daughter used to paint Acropora, and Joe at Unique Corals gave her a bucket of dead coral, and one of the things she likes to do is put them in frames and so forth. So she doesn't need the bases. So those aquacultured rock bases, cut them off, and I mount frags to that and let them grow. And usually, you know, they just sit on the bottom of the tank, and if they turn out to be nice, I'll move them up. But I'm one of those people who moves corals around based on how they react. You know, like, oh, you know, the color's just okay. I wonder if I move it here, you know, will it get better? And so for me, it's always that, let's find out what's the best place where it's going to get the best color. Sometimes frag the frag and use and grow 2 of them out, just to see if I can get better color.
Yeah. So I'm seeing some comments here about Greg's audio cutting in and out.
Oh, sorry about that.
Is everybody seeing that? I think I've seen you kind of like cut in and out a couple of times, but your audio sounds really good to me.
All right. Well, I mean, I have what looks to be full Wi-Fi, and I got fiber, so it should be good.
Yeah, no, you sound good and look good to me, folks. If it's still an issue,
it might be because I keep backing away.
Oh,
I don't know. Maybe that's it.
Okay.
So,
my corals look much better with the Miracle. All right, so we're getting to some other topics here. I saw Bert wanted to talk about well, I thought one was UV and Kalk washer. I think we've been talking about that, but yeah, in terms of I can't recall, Greg. Are you using a UV sterilizer at this point?
No UV sterilizer. I've actually never used a UV sterilizer. I have used ozone, which works similarly through the skimmer. But I've been really resistant, and a lot of it has to do with you doing your interviews with the guy from Aquabiomics.
Yeah.
Talking about how he can tell when a tank has got a UV sterilizer or ozone, because it's killing a particular type of bacteria. And so I'm resistant to do that, to add that to my regiment.
Yeah, so both of my systems I'm running UV, and I've sent tests into Eli, and yeah, it comes back, and he's like, yeah, you're not running UV because I could tell there's a certain bacteria that's not showing up. That's just very indicative of a tank that doesn't have UV. And the reason why I run UV is, one, for fish disease. I know it's not going to be a way to solve all the different types of fish disease. And in fact, I've had some issues with fish disease. But, I think it possibly could help at some degree, at some level. The other thing I like it is in case dinos outbreak. I had nutrients on one of my systems just bottomed out on me a few weeks ago, but I didn't get dinos, and maybe it was because I had a UV sterilizer running on that system. I don't know.
Possibly. For the last probably 3 months, my phosphate was down at damn near 0, and my nitrate was at 0 or 1, and I didn't have any issues like dinos pop up or anything like that. I just think there may be more. I just don't think we understand what causes dinos enough to jump to the conclusion that it's bottomed out nutrients.
Fair enough.
Because I have to wonder, is bottomed out nutrients the symptom or the cause? And I don't know. I kind of think maybe it's the symptom. Maybe the dinos, when they take hold, they bottom out the nutrients.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true. So when your nutrients bottomed out, what did you notice with your corals?
Nothing.
No fading, no nothing.
They got a little lighter, so that's why I started cutting back on the light. Because I was up at 65%. I was getting par numbers of 650 up until maybe a month and a half ago, and I've been slowly dialing it back to bring the numbers down to 500.
Gotcha. Yeah, so when my nitrates and phosphates bottomed out, I definitely noticed some corals were faded a little bit. And so the reason why they had bottomed out was because I had been fighting cyano in this system, for a couple of years. So I wanted to try to get the nutrients down. So I was dosing a lot of nitrates and phosphates. So I cut that back gradually over time. But, when I got all the way down to near 0 in terms of dosing that stuff, that's when I noticed, the coral started to fade, and my nutrients, were almost at 0 for both. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to have to start bumping the dosing up again, because we don't want unhappy corals. And
right.
and maybe it's a function of pulling the sand bed out of that tank. But the cyano really hasn't gotten any worse, and in fact, it's maybe improved a little bit since I've started dosing and getting those numbers up. It's you know what? It's kind of like a mystery, right? In terms of the cyano and that sort of stuff. I mean, have you ever you know, had issues with cyano? It looks like in that tank you have not.
So no. There is actually small little patches of cyano in corners and so forth. But it's, I mean, if I was to measure it by square inches, it might be maybe 5 square inches at best.
Yeah, not bad.
At best. So I mean, it's just little bits here and there and in cracks and so forth. And I squirt it with the turkey baster every now and then. And once it's in the water column, it's going to make it through the filtration. So
yeah,
but nothing that I've had to worry about. Nothing that I feel I have to maintain. I really do my best to keep my hands out of the tank. Whenever I get anything out of the tank, it's typically using tongs because it's 27 inches tall and I'm only 5'7", so I don't got long arms. So yeah, I mean, you know, just I feel that's always better for the health of the tank to do as best a job you can as keeping the hands out.
Yeah, no, I'm a big advocate of that myself. Yeah, you know, in terms of the cyano and all that stuff. Yeah, I think for me, another big part in terms of beating it back is I take a power head and wherever I see it on the rocks, I'll blow it off the rocks. If it's a little on the glass bottom, I'll blow it off the glass bottom. Get it into the water column. I'll siphon some stuff out if I if there's enough to siphon out in one spot.
Right.
And then I also have this water polisher, like a canister filter type of thing that I put into the tank after I do that. So not only is it getting pulled out by the mechanical filtration, but this polishing filter will...
is it the Marine Land one?
Yes.
Yes, that is awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little one too, right?
Yeah. It's just powered with a MaxiJet. You know, that's what's in the top there. But so people wonder a lot of times how, you know, they set up these tanks at the shows and so forth and get the water so crystal clear. Let me tell you, if you walk through on Friday, they all got those little MaxiJet filters on them. Yeah. They work really good.
I got the idea from Rich Ross. I saw he showed one of his talks about fighting problematic algae, and man, it's not expensive, and it's
not at all. And you can get them anywhere. You can get them on with the water and turn it on in that bucket, and it'll, you know, basically become even better at polishing because it'll clog the pores slightly. So it becomes a
I've never heard of
diatom
that
filter. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. Interesting.
It was the Marine Line guy who told me that.
Really?
Yeah. At the show.
Yeah. No. So I think, you know, I'm not a big advocate of using chemicals to fight algae and all that stuff. I just think that you know, rolling up the sleeves and doing the work and
absolutely.
You know, you gotta like. Have you ever used like ChemiClean or fluconazole and all that stuff?
I did use ChemiClean back here in January-ish because I was having a bacterial issue. At least that's what I think it was with some of the corals. And after doing it, it stopped. Basically, I didn't have that, the one that you used. It was the only antibiotic I had on hand.
Oxalic acid.
Yeah, and I just wasn't willing to wait. So I'm like, let's just do this and see what happens. And literally, after I did it, I didn't have any more tissue loss at all. It just completely stopped.
So you were getting some RTN, STN
Some
episodes? STN.
Yeah.
So any I mean, I know it's always a mystery in terms of why that stuff happens. Any theories in terms of why that might have started happening? Did you make any changes?
Maybe. I mean, I'm really not one to like I didn't send out any test aqua biomics or anything like that. I'm just, I didn't do that, but I did, I checked everything. I checked my salinity. I checked my parameters. I sent out an ICP test. It literally came back with one yellow. Everything else was in the green. I had never had an ICP test that good. So I just was like, you know what? I got a bottle of ChemiClean. The tank's 280 gallons. This treat's 300. Pour the bottle in.
Yeah.
And it stopped. And it's been an amazing recovery. I mean, almost all the corals are, we're probably at 95% recovery. There's still some tips that it's just growing over, but they haven't started to sprout off of those grow over tips and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been a great recovery.
When you get STN events going on, right? The slow tissue necrosis. Do you find that the corals can be saved by just kind of remedying the situation by using antibiotics and stopping that recession, or have you found that you need to go in, pull the colony out, frag the crap out of it, and hope that some of those frags live?
So, yeah, I've done it both ways. In the old days, that's what I did: would pull the colony out, frag it. I don't think we ever really thought about adding antibiotics to the tank. And most of the time, all the frags died.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
So with this one, it was happening. Like I would have STN, and then it would like kind of subside for a little bit. And then it would happen a little bit more, or a different colony. It was so weird the way it was jumping around. And I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to dose it. Let's see what happens.
It's such a depressing thing. I've talked about this before in terms of my own experience with it happening, and that is like, you get these random events, all of a sudden you're like, oh, this coral's not looking good, and then the next day it's like there's some bleaching going on, and then you're afraid to look at the tank because you don't want to look at the corals too closely because you're afraid
you're afraid you're going to see something wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So
so
go ahead.
Russell says 100% success with witch hazel dips. I forgot to mention I did do witch hazel too. I did the Mike Paletta witch hazel
in tank treatment.
In tank treatment, and nothing worked. It didn't. So that's what I said. I just threw it in. If that wouldn't have worked, I probably would have bought the oxalic acid. But I just, I had that dosing to, Jake had given it to me a long time ago, and I just never needed it, But
the OA.
But I had the recipe, for the dosing.
You had that in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I talked about this with Eli and Andy on the last episode that we had in terms of the live stream about doing dips to prevent pathogenic bacteria from entering the tank. And is that something you've thought about doing, like dipping incoming frags?
Never thought about it. But I do know that a lot of bacteria comes in on coral from Jake. I mean, just in my conversations with him, he always, it was one of the reasons why he always said, you don't even need to cycle a tank. Just throw coral in there and it'll bring all the bacteria with it, So,
yeah.
So yeah, but I've never thought about doing that. I know people have been successful with that, with these torch corals and whatnot. But yeah.
So here's an interesting question from John Wright. ReefBum, what's your opinion on higher phosphates? Rich Ross doesn't seem worried about high phosphates. I've had a lot of success with low phosphates. It seems like my tanks are always running on lower phosphates, not necessarily higher phosphates. What's been your experience?
I think Bert kind of nailed my experience. Personally, I don't chase numbers. I kind of say chase results. It just settles out where it settles out. Right now, it happens to be damn near 0. Sometimes it's 0.2, 0.1, 0.3. It's been as high as 0.4. I don't really worry about it unless I'm seeing a problem.
Yeah.
Because I don't test phosphates, but maybe every 2 weeks at best.
Yeah.
And I'm not even testing with a Hannah. I'm testing with that Aquaspin. So it only goes down to 1/10. So
Oh.
it's not even super giving me a super number. Now mind you, if it gives me a number that's in that 0.3, 0.4 range, I am definitely breaking out the Hannah to verify it. Oftentimes the Aquaspin tends to read high. When it reads 0.1, it's been 0.03. I mean, but yeah, I don't worry about it too much. I can kind of tell how high the phosphates are based on how long it takes for algae to grow on the glass.
Yeah. How often do you clean the glass?
Once a week.
I do mine like every other day.
Well, no. I mean, it's growing algae. I just during the week I don't touch it. I do it every Friday.
Oh, okay.
Just
You can
do it
look
every
through a
Friday.
green tinted tank.
Yeah,
All right.
I don't worry about it.
All right.
And it's not that bad, but I mean it can I mean it's not great today for sure.
I've talked a lot about this and my disdain for phosphate test kits, and I know a lot of people have. Yeah. Did you? Yep.
Huh? I'm here.
We still got you. Okay.
Yeah.
I've always had a lot of trouble getting, I think, somewhat accurate measurement with a test kit for phosphate. I've got a number of different. I've got the Hannah checker. I've got the Milwaukee. And man, I just I don't trust a lot of the phosphate readings I get from these test kits, and so that I kind of lean on the ICP testing to get that.
Now, how often are you ICP testing?
Once a month.
Okay.
So
I'm doing it far less than that, maybe once every 3 months. So Joe of Unique Corals did a talk at our club one day, and he basically suggested, hey, do a test when everything's looking good.
Yeah.
And maybe do one every 3 months. But then if you have a problem or you see
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I'm doing monthly because I've been for like the past.
You do the Reef Moonshiners, right?
No, I'm doing the Captivate Aquaculture. Okay. Those traces. Okay. So
similar type.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Chris has got a spreadsheet, so I'll just take Chris Wood from Captivate Agriculture. So I'll just take the ICP test results, pop it into that spreadsheet, and just adjust dosing accordingly.
See, I wish more companies would do that kind of thing. The fact that you can just easily figure out how much you need to dose to get back to where you want to be, I think that's just genius. I mean, it really is, and I wish more companies would do it.
It makes a lot of sense to me, in terms of that. If that's the way you want to replenish, trace elements. I think are you pretty much leaning on water changes to do that? Is that your method, or are you not as concerned with the all the different trace elements in terms of keeping that stuff in balance?
Primarily, I've been water changes in the calcium reactor.
Yeah.
I mean, we know calcium reactors reintroduce the trace elements as well. So that's my primary.
Yeah. I think I've cut back on my water changes. I used to do like 10% weekly water changes, but since I've started doing the, using the Captivate Agriculture traces, I've cut my water changes back to 5% weekly. So yeah, I think every tank you find the balance, and you want to just look at the animals, right? You want to look at your corals,
Yep.
and if the corals are happy, then you know you're doing something right.
Absolutely. And I truly do believe in water changes. Whenever someone's having a problem, I always recommend a water change. Don't wait to get your results back. You can go ahead and send in an ICP test, do a water change. Do a water change. It's an easy it's an easy reset button.
Yes. Yeah.
If there's a problem, that's the way you do it. And one of the things that I also learned is it's probably a good idea to ICP test your freshwater as well.
Yes, I've done that with Fauna Marine. Gives you an extra vial
Nice.
for the RODI, and so I've done that just to make sure there's nothing going on with
Steve from ICP Analysis, he made a great case for it, and he said, what do you add more of? Do you add more fresh water to your tank, or do you add more salt water to your tank? And when you start counting on how much ATO you go through, you put a lot of fresh water into the tank.
Yeah.
So he's like, it can make a difference,
Yeah.
Especially if you don't realize, TDS doesn't measure everything. So,
well, one element that I think some water supplies have are deficient in fluoride. Right, there's some water supplies that don't have maybe as much fluoride as you would like in your reef tank. So one of the things that I started to dose was fluoride based on my ICP test results that I was getting back from Fauna Marine. And dude, let me tell you, the blues on the tips on some of my acros just really started popping when I started dosing the fluoride. But that's that is something that you don't want to dose until you know what you got.
Right.
But that was one.
So can I just use toothpaste?
You could use whatever you want, dude.
So.
Reef Keeper is asking me, are you using the Isolate MT or individual traces or both? I'm using the individual traces. The Isolate MT is more of it's kind of combines a few of the traces in one solution. And then there's another way to go where you can just dose those. You can be more specific and break that stuff up and just be more have more fine-tuned dosing in terms of those trace elements. What salt are you using?
So all day get Instant Ocean from Petco and get it dirt cheap. And it works. I used to use nothing but Instant Ocean on my old tank. So I trust in it. I don't think think it's a big deal. I do like the Brightwell because the Brightwell comes in and around the parameters that I keep. So yeah.
So Greg's audio is gone again. This is weird because I could hear you fine.
I know. We're hearing each other.
Yeah, because usually if the audio is out, then I would hear that. But back up.
Well, hopefully it in the when you post it the audio's cleared up. But
yeah, well, you know what? It's just like one of those mysteries of the internet.
I guess so.
You got fiber, I got fiber, and go figure. But you know what? I mean, maybe there's high traffic in your neighborhood, dude. I mean, it could be. That's one thing that can impact the strength of.
That's what they say, but it's only just 5 o'clock, so most people are just getting home, if anything. So
they say you're back,
and now I'm back. So what salt again? It's Brightwell that I use.
Brightwell.
But I regularly, when I'm out, I'm not like quick to go reorder Brite. Well, I use whatever's easy that I can get easy. I mean, when BRS was doing their little sale over Black Friday, and they were giving out those coupons, and you were getting extra things, I was just ordering salt left and right. I ordered Red Sea. I ordered HW Marine Mix. I ordered all these different brands of salt, and yeah, I can use them all. Doesn't bother me. I don't care if it matches what I use, because the calcium reactor is gonna catch up based on the alkalinity reading anyway. So
yep. The one reason I'm using the Captivate aquaculture salt, and the that's a 4-part. So there's 2 parts in terms of the solid and 2 parts liquid. If you're familiar with the ESV salt, that's a similar type of principle.
Yep.
And I think the one advantage with those types of mixes is that you never have the issue potentially of something settling in a mass batch of salt, and that's what kind of always it scared me about the mass. It never happened to me, but I've heard some stories.
So I will tell you this, because I use all these different brands of salt, stuff gets built up in the tank, and so I regularly will go in prior to a water change and scrub down the tank, the mixing container, and pump that brown water right into the tank.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Oh, I mean, it came in the bucket of salt, right?
So it's supposed to be there,
I guess. I mean,
dude, I'm so bummed out because I got
the skimmer. The skimmer is going to pull it all out anyway. I just, more than likely it's some form of organics. Especially when it's brown. I don't worry about it. I mean,
that darn brown residue from IO it pissed me off, man, because I got these beautiful graduated 50-gallon drums, polyurethane.
Same here. Mine are 65-gallon. Yeah,
beautiful drums.
I take that scrub brush and
dude, I took a power washer to it. It wouldn't come off. I took it outside. I was blasting it, and it couldn't come off.
The easiest way is just to fill it and then dump a bag of citric acid in it. But that'll clean it up. And just run it just like you would if you were mixing salt.
Go nuclear.
But I scrub that.
Yeah.
Gets crystal clear again with the skimmer.
So, what was I going to ask you? All right, I was watching one of your lives with O, I think, and you guys were talking about fish. And I know you mentioned you don't have a lot of fish, but I think one thing that I heard you say is that you want a regal angelfish.
I do. I've always wanted one. I always wanted a powder blue. I got the powder blue. I've always wanted a regal angel. Eventually, I will find one, but I'm in no hurry. The tank's not going nowhere, so I don't rush over these things and I gotta have it.
Yeah.
So
beautiful fish. I've had some good success, and I've had some not so good success. I had this gorgeous misbarred regal from Biota that I bought off of somebody. Actually, I picked it up at last year's Reefapalooza.
Okay.
I met the guy.
Yeah, I would definitely like to get a captive raised one.
But dude, I put it in the tank, display tank with all frags. And it just went to town. I mean, everything kind of closed up on me. I had to catch it, and I sold it.
Right.
It broke my heart. But I think that the odds of that happening are much higher if you have a tank with just frags in it.
Right.
Because I've got a regal in my Peninsula tank, and he'll pick every now and then on a colony and stuff, but it's just kind of like, a large colony can take it, but when you've got small frags and they're constantly under stress, closing up and all that stuff, I just don't think that's a good thing. But I think with your tank, you're probably going to be fine because it looks like it's pretty established.
There's a lot for him to nibble on.
Yeah,
so.
And you don't have any LPS either, so
no. Well, yeah, there's a couple of chalices.
Yeah.
That's about it.
What was I going to ask? Oh yeah, the other thing I was going to ask you about bacteria dosing. Do you do that?
So I did in the beginning. I haven't dosed any bacteria recently. It's my preferred method of reducing nutrients when nutrients are out of control. So if phosphate gets high, I will more than likely dose some bacteria and some carbon to get it back. Because I have the big skimmer, that's I've always used carbon dosing for that.
Yep. All right, man. Let's talk about a couple of other things that are really important here. One is you are still the president of the Southern California Marine Aquarium Society. What's going on with that club, man? How did you guys rebound from the pandemic? I mean, a lot of clubs are doing virtual. Have you guys gone back in person? And
so we are doing quarterly in-person meetings.
Nice.
And the rest are on Zoom. And the in-person meetings are also broadcast on Zoom.
Nice.
One of the things that happened during the pandemic is because we started meeting on Zoom, and I started putting up the meetings in my Instagram. It's like a third of our club doesn't live in California now.
Really?
So we got a large number of out-of-state members. So I look at it as they're the ones that carried this club and made it continue on through the pandemic, where a lot of clubs folded. We did not because of that. So I love the Zoom meetings. We do the Zoom meetings, and then after the meeting is over, we hang out and showing off each other's tank. It's like a tank tour every meeting.
Oh, you guys have a meeting at different club members' house every?
No, but because of Zoom.
Okay, yeah.
And we're able to show everybody's able to show their tank, and we spotlight it and
awesome.
Ask questions and all that stuff. I mean, I think the Zoom meetings are the greatest thing since sliced bread for a club. But there are those who still desire those in-person meetings. But when I go fashion to drink, or a rum and Coke, I can't have that, so I'm eating pancakes, which is not really what I wanted to eat. But I'll do it, but we're only doing it quarterly. So.
Well, it sounds like that's a nice hybrid approach, in terms of having both the online stuff so people that are not in the area can be involved, right?
Yeah. I mean, our last meeting was a total failure, our last in-person meeting. So I had gotten a new computer since I had last done a presentation, and realized that my USB-C doesn't plug into anything for the projector. So literally every Zoom that was in the meeting so that they could see the presentation, because I couldn't broadcast it on the screen. Yeah. So everybody was, on Zoom sitting in the meeting along with the people who were from out of state, on Zoom. So, it just goes to show it came in handy that we're doing hybrid meetings.
That's cool. And you guys bring in like guest speakers and stuff like that?
That's been the best part. I mean, a couple months ago we had Adam Wendell and not Adam. Wait, is that right? No, I'm mixing up Adam Blundell and Matt Wandell. We had Matt Wandell, and he did an awesome job. So yeah, we've been getting speakers, and yeah, it's been great. Are people moving out of California like here in Illinois? Yes, that's a secret we like to tell you guys all. Don't come to California.
Don't come to California.
You'll know when people are moving out of California when the price of houses start going down, and they ain't going down.
So, Reefapalooza. Let's talk Reefapalooza.
Yeah.
How's it been going, and what do we got to look forward to in New York?
Well, the show in Orlando was freaking amazing. It was a monstrous turnout. One of the things that shocked me, and I didn't realize it was going to happen, is we had a sudden influx of companies from out of the country show up.
Wow.
There's no MACNA this year.
Right.
So they went for an alternative, and they came to Reefapalooza, and then they booked booths at Reefapalooza, New York.
Oh, so it's going to be a bigger show?
There's going to be some there as well. It's really cool to have the owners of these companies come to these shows. And for a long time, we didn't have that because they saved up their dollars that trip to come to MACNA. And, so we had the guys from NIOS were there. We had the guys from Reef Factory. They're out of Poland. The NIOS guys out of Germany. Claude Schumacher from Fauna Marin was there. We had the guys from D&D there, from England. The owner of what's it called? Aqua Forest.
Yep.
The owner of Reef Octopus. In all the years I've had Coral View at our thing, the Reef Octopus owner has never been to a Reefapalooza. And they all left with a very good taste in their mouth and wanting more. So I think they now they have a new favorite show. We'll see. I'm hoping that they continue to come every year, because the hobbyists, I think, only benefit from talking to someone other than just someone who's a rep.
Yes, I agree. Go right to the source.
I thought it was so cool, to hang out and talk with Klaus of Royal Exclusiv, when he came to a show. And he was just excited to meet me because he had only interacted with me on the forums, So, I want to see more of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is definitely beneficial to have the person that is the most knowledgeable and influential person of that company to be able to have that direct dialogue with that person. But I love shows in general. I mean, I'm going to make my annual appearance at the Reefapalooza in New York. I'll do my quick drive by through the showroom floor. But
yeah, be careful if you see him. Don't be like, oh, he's busy right now, I'll talk to him later. You will not see him again. Keith makes one round, gets everything he needs, and he's gone because he's got to drive back home.
Yeah, so. I know. I do so what I've been doing is I drive. I kind of combine a little fly fishing trip. I'll stop off in the Catskills and do some fly fishing on Friday, and then I'll stay over in the Catskills, and then from there it's like only an hour and a half drive into the city. And this year I was trying to talk my wife into visiting her mom in Manhattan so we could stay in, but I don't think that's going to be happening. I gotta try to figure out a way to extend the trip so it's not such a brief stay. But I'm not coral shopping, I can't. I don't have any room. I can't buy any more frags. I mean, it's just enough already.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I rarely, if ever, bring anything back.
What's the deal in terms of bringing stuff back on airplanes these days? I mean, I was at Restock and I was talking to I forget who I was talking to about one of the rainbow splice corals.
Okay.
And I was afraid to buy it and to try to bring it back on the plane.
So in the end, you cannot rely on TSA following their own rules. In the end, it is up to the discretion of TSA.
Yeah, that scares the crap out of me.
Yep.
It was Chris Kapp at Aquatic Art in Colorado. He had a sweet
Gotcha.
he had a sweet rainbow splice frag, and yeah. See, I can't spend whatever it is, $500, $450 on a frag, and then have it confiscated at the gate. You know,
so
that's no good.
I haven't, they've let me on with them, but I personally don't even like to go through the hassle myself. But other people go through and have no problems.
So if somebody wants to go to the show and they want to have coral shipped home, they can do that, right?
Most people probably can.
Right? I mean, do vendors provide that as a possible service?
Some vendors will ship your stuff to you, but most people don't have a problem. I seem to have a problem.
Oh, you had a problem?
I've had it's look, coming home from Chicago, the guy was like, "You can't bring this through," and I'm like, this is the printout from your website that you can bring it through. It has to be in carry-on and all this kind of stuff. He's all, yeah, but there's too much water. And he's all, I could see if it was a fish. And I said, it's a living animal. Why are you discriminating against coral? I mean, he's like, it's too much water. It's too much water. And then I go further on, and I post this on my Instagram. There was a guy with a live sedated coyote dressed in a Pendleton shirt as a support animal. They let him through.
A coyote?
A coyote.
How do you do that?
He was holding it like it was a kid.
Oh.
It was wearing a red Pendleton shirt, but it was a coyote.
Really? A wild animal?
Yes. And they let him on. And I'm like, and you're harassing me over a coral.
Could you have just taken some of the water out of the bag? I mean, was that...
No, it was. I used those little travel cups.
Oh, okay.
That people do. It holds like five or six frags in it. So most people have zero issue. I mean, he from California, he checked the whole through TSA, a whole box of coral.
Really?
No problem.
Oh. Right. So I mean, you can't put it underneath the plane, can you, or can you?
You're not supposed to. You will never have a problem if you do it.
Oh, okay. Because they
that's one thing. Anyone who checks it never has an issue. It's those who try to follow the rules and carry it on that you can have an issue.
Could go the old school way and Great Bearded Reef could go the old school way and shred plastic that's water soaked, draped over the frags. Yeah.
Hey, old school's even more old school than that.
Newspaper.
Paper towels.
Yeah.
Newspaper.
Have you ever tried that? Have you ever tried to prove that theory out?
Yes.
Did it work?
Yes.
Really?
Absolutely. As long as the coral stays damp, it's fine. It certainly works with zoos. I know it works with zoos. But yes, SPS, it's as long as it can stay, you want to put it in like a baggie so that it doesn't dry out.
Right.
But yeah.
All right.
That's the way they used to ship corals from the islands.
I know.
They used to ship them in damp newspaper.
I know. I remember that. What else can you tell us, dude, about the upcoming New York show in terms of Reefapalooza?
Well, I mean, there's the exhibitors are being announced. There's some great exhibitors. There's always going to be a fantastic raffle. That was when I started doing shows. The raffle was the crowning jewel of the show for me. The biggest excitement, where I could buy some raffle tickets and win things that cost hundreds of dollars, for just a few raffle tickets. And I run the raffle, so it's near and dear to my heart. But yeah, it's just fun. You're hanging out all weekend with a bunch of people who are like-minded and are, I mean, they really are in this hobby for the same reason you are. You just love the animals, and all that nature, has in store for them. So, yeah.
Yeah, folks, if you're in the area, it's June 24th and 25th, right? Saturday,
Yes,
Sunday?
Saturday, Sunday, and let's see, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. both days.
It's well worth it. I mean, I come from 5 hours away. Just if you're thinking about it, do it, because, like Greg says, it's such a fun thing to go and meet like-minded people. The camaraderie, you make friends for life. And it's really cool. It's in this online world we live in today. This sort of thing, face to face, and having the conversations, I think, is priceless.
And that's another thing, because this hobby has become so online. It's really cool to have these people who you buy corals from line up next to each other, and you be able to see who really has the best colored coral.
Yeah.
Whose stuff doesn't really look like the pictures, and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And these shows definitely have a way of squeezing out the fakes. I can tell you that a lot of these big name guys who do these shows, they don't Photoshop. You might think they Photoshop because your corals don't look like theirs, but they don't. And they're there in the flesh to prove it. So,
Great Bird of ReefBum, come pick me up. He's in Boston
it's
area.
on the way.
You're a little out of my way there, Paul. It's not exactly
Boston's
not
not far. Just
is there ever going to be a Reefapalooza in Boston?
No.
Or any place else?
I think the
no
New
other
York
cities
show's
planned?
close enough that we attract
is.
people from Boston.
Yeah,
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Is we try to make it close enough where someone might want to spend the weekend at the show, and Boston, it's close enough. We tried Illinois. It didn't work out too well. The Chicago area. We were trying Dallas. First year didn't work out so well. We're going to give it another go. It's really hard. Certain areas have a metropolis that's going to support a show that size. And realistically, we need about 3,000 people for it to be a success.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not hard in very many areas in this country to get 3,000 people. We can do it easy in Orlando. We can do it easy in New York. We can do it easy in California. But finding that fourth area that we can get that 3,000 people, because you can build a big show, but without the people, there's no excitement.
Yeah.
It's just, So yeah.
Are you guys having any guest speakers this time?
Yes. They're posting the guest speakers daily on the Reefapalooza New York website. So they're having a lot more. We're doing a lot more speakers than we've ever done.
Cool.
It really worked out in Orlando. More than anything, the aisles were so packed in Orlando. It was good that the speakers went on and took some of the people off the show floor.
Wow. Can you drop any names for New York, speaker-wise?
I just don't know them off the top of my head. I haven't been following it. So.
Gotcha. Jackson, thank you so much for that super chat. Really appreciate it.
Hell of a super chat.
Thank you guys for the knowledge. Thank you. Really, really appreciate that. Yes. So to find out more about the show, visit reefapaloozashow.net, right?
Correct. Reefapaloozashow.net, and that'll take you to all of the 4 shows home pages. And also, follow the Reefapalooza, the 4 Reefapalooza shows on Instagram, because they also will give you a lot of information about what's going on. I mean, they'll post the schedule of events, hotel rates, when the hotel rates. We usually negotiate pretty good hotel rates for these shows. Always less than $200. I mean, the show is in Secaucus, and I think the rates are somewhere in the $150 range.
Nice.
So, I mean, it's a great little show.
And it's a quick jaunt into the city, into Manhattan from there.
It's like an $8 bus ride.
Yeah.
And it takes all of like 20 minutes to get to Port Authority.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
You gonna be having another night out in the town this go around?
Oh, you know it. You know it. Probably two. Probably Friday night and Saturday night. Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you, dude. You are a hardworking man, and we really appreciate everything you do for the hobby and for working on putting together the show. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you again in
looking
person.
Forward to seeing you.
Yeah. All right, man. Any final words before we wrap tonight?
No. If you, like I said, if you want to hear more from me, follow me on Instagram. Me and we go live on Instagram at 10 a.m., usually around 10 a.m. to 10:30 Eastern time. And, it's just a little, anything goes. None of it's pre-scripted or anything. We just talk tank. And, would love to have you join us there. We have interaction from the listeners, and, it's not a massive group, but, for Instagram, it's pretty good size. And we have fun on it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've checked a few out, and it's good stuff. Enjoy watching you guys.
And let me tell you, Keith, and any of you guys out there, if you really want to, hit the request to join in. Be surprised. I brought in one guy. I was like, oh, this might be interesting. It was like Bali Coral. And the guy, he didn't speak no English. It was the guy. He was from Indonesia with the company Bali Coral CV, and he just smiled and nodded the whole time. It was pretty funny. So
classic.
So yeah, we have fun. We have fun.
All right, maybe I'll join you guys one of these times.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
love to have you.
Yeah.
All right,
for sure. All right, Greg. Thanks a lot, man. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
See you in a few weeks. So that's going to do it, folks, for this show. I want to thank Greg for being on, and I also want to thank both Bulk Reef Supply and Ecotech Marine for sponsoring the live stream, and thank all you folks out there for tuning in and participating. Also, a big thank you to Paul, the moderator, is also the president of the Boston Reefer Society. Please join and support your local reefing clubs. They are so important to this hobby. Finally, I want to let you all know that all episodes of Rappin With ReefBum are available as podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Amazon. The next Rappin With ReefBum is again on a Tuesday, next Tuesday, June 6th, I think it is. I'm going to have Dong Zhou back on the program. I know a lot of you folks love watching Dong, so he's going to be back on. So, yeah, please tune in. Should be another great show. Until next time, be safe and be well. Later.